Well, we were just talking about Woodstock tradesmen, of how like you go into someone's house and every floor is at a different level, and it's all on the same floor. I
saw that up on the mountain.
Windows that are in crooked and not repaired, not put in correctly. They just put it into the crooked hole. And doorways that, if the doorway is collapsed on one side, now it's out of plumb and out of level. Instead of putting a new doorway in, they just cut the door so that the door will open up and fit into the trapezoid that is now the doorway, not the rectangle. If you know what a trapezoid is, it's a rectangle where the two long sides are of different lengths. Fucking shit. Well, that's this place. That's Woodstock. It's the place of good enough. That's what it is. The place of good enough. That's good enough.
I like that.
I know, I've seen crazy stuff in here, like I am no mason. I've never done brickwork in my life. I've seen it done. I know people who do it. Okay, but I saw a guy in this town try and start a brick wall from the middle. Okay, and everybody knows what you do is you go and you start a corner, and you get that level and plumb, and then you go to the other corner, you get that level and plumb, and then you fill in the bricks so that everything is level and plumb. You can't do that if you start it in the middle. They only have so many of those mixed CDs that they play over here all the time.
Yeah.
Some of them are better than others.
I'm trying to think, man. There was something I wanted to ask you. Now I forget.
So the City Hall in the City Hall, Philadelphia Hall, is that where the
yeah, it's where the courthouse is and everything.
Yeah,
and
where the Rittenhouse Square.
Rittenhouse Square is like in the it's like around like 23rd Street, I think.
I'm reading a book by Howard Zinn called The History of the United States, 1492 to the present. And when I was in the colonial portion of the book, Rittenhouse was one of the guys who was very big in Philadelphia at the time.
What, he's a person?
He's a person, yeah.
Wow.
A rich person who was there between like the 1800s and into the 1900s,
okay.
Like just before the Civil War up into the 1900s.
It's nice to get out of the town sometimes because you can kind of see it differently when you're outside of it.
Well, Philly, when they built that town, so they built it near a swamp, or like on a swamp, and problem with that was like every summer, with the mosquitoes and the fucking swamp water and shit, there would be like cholera and all this other shit would come along. There'd be like these mini epidemics every summer.
Yeah.
And the rich people who could would leave Philly for the summer.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm getting eaten alive out there right now, man. My legs are all fucking.
That's why it was interesting that they signed the Declaration of Independence, and made it July 4th, because July would have been the height of the summer there.
Yeah.
And it would have been full of people being sick and bugs everywhere and shit.
I've been going to the Grange lately, and that's like a park in Havertown, and that's a spot where they would get out of the city and come to and chill before going into more battle.
Right, that would be like the suburbs.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking about it back in the day, it's kind of interesting because,
Well, most of the Revolutionary War was fought in New England. There were some major battles in Carolina and stuff like that, but the other southern states, not so much. That's one of the reasons I love reading the history books, especially a guy like Howard Zinn, who doesn't I'm at a point in the book where they're talking about Columbus, or they started talking about Columbus. Now they're back to him again, because I'm almost at the end of the book. But you know, this guy Columbus was a fucking animal. You know, he's the guy who started the subjugation of the Americas. You know, he wasn't even on that fucking island a week. He was already killing people. You know, and putting them in chains in the boat to take back to Spain.
Wish there was a way to really get some good Native American history, or, you know, African history, you know, pre, you know, colonialism or whatever.
Well, pre-colonialism. So in South Africa, when the English took over South Africa, they had to fight the Zulu. Okay, which they've made movies about this. And the English used machine guns on them and all this other stuff. And it's always been said that, oh, so all the African tribes, they've had Africa for 20,000 years and they never built civilization, you know, meaning Africa, you know, the equatorial belt in South Africa, where the black man really lived, you know. The top of Africa, yeah, well, it was Mediterranean, so there was a lot of trade going on and stuff like that. But, you know, back in the day, it was hard to get through a fucking jungle. I mean, you know, with all the beasts and everything, and what tribe were headhunters and, you know, whatever they were down there. But when they got to the area in the Zulu, the English actually hid the fact that they found ancient structures there, because they didn't want people to think that the Zulu were in any way civilized. And yet the Zulu were like the indigenous in this country, where, you know, they lived as Africans, you know, and the indigenous in Africa pretty much lived with nature. You know, they couldn't fight nature. Nature is so extreme. You know, it's like why didn't the Hivaro and the Yanomama down in the Amazon, why didn't they build like skyscrapers and shit? Because they're living in a fucking jungle, you know. Yeah. It's not easy to live in a jungle when you're Stone Age.
Why fix what ain't broke, though? You know, like I still feel better in the jungle than I do in the city.
That's the thing. When the white man got here, they looked upon the indigenous as poor, uneducated, unchristianized.
Right.
You know, indigenous Indians in this country were basically Stone Age. Okay, you know, they didn't have the wheel. They were still making, you know, spear points and arrow points. You know, out of using the method that man had learned of 50,000 years before that. You know.
Yep.
They saw no need to fight nature. They accommodated nature. You know, there were agrarian societies of the American Indian before the white man got here and said, well, let's just turn them into agrarians, you know, instead of hunter-gatherers. But most of them, yeah, they were not only agrarian, but they were hunter-gatherers too. To get their meat, they hunted. And their, you know, horror of horrors, many of the indigenous tribes, the women had quite a bit of say in the tribes, especially when it came to the hunting times and when it came to war. You know, the women could, like, you know, put the kibosh on the war and get the men up, like, you know, don't be lazy to fucking deer it. Let's go get some meat, you know.
Seems like, well, I've been to Belize, and I went to some of the old Mayan castles there.
Oh, yeah. And
it seems that, you know, civilizations were built up back in the day in a certain way, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s might have been a little bit more primitive here than what we've now gotten to, and I don't know, it's just kind of interesting, man, to think about all this stuff, and like, I keep meeting people that all have links to the Native American stuff, and you know, I don't meet enough cats that are on the African tip that are on the same kind of tribe that I am.
What the Europeans did in this fucking country is, I mean, I was born here, you know, but
yeah.
like, wow, and they still doing it. I mean, you know, it's a constant vendetta against the indigenous
Yeah, what's up with that?
population. It's the idea of they're an embarrassment. They're an embarrassment to the white man who won't give them anything. Just like the poor in this country, they're an embarrassment. That's why these rich motherfuckers would rather see everybody die and just, you know,
Yeah, figure it out.
die and have it over with already. You know,
Crazy.
it's like the line in Scrooge, in A Christmas Carol, where he says to the people looking for a little Christmas offering. Those two guys come in his office and ask for a little Christmas offering, and he says, "Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses left?" And he's like, "Well, you know, there's so many people in there that packed in." He goes, "Well, then, you know, then have them die and let it be over with." You know, basically, his attitude that all people who had Christmas cheer should be boiled in rum and with a sprig of holly through their heart. You know, that's the English of 1890. The English of the sun never sets on our empire. You know what I mean? You know, and the English, the Europeans, and the Americans had that European thing, which was the manifest destiny. We have to go to the other ocean, no matter who's there. In the school books, we had the impression that when the English got here, it was a fucking wasteland with no one here. You know?
Right.
It was a wasteland with no one here. You know what it was a place where they didn't overcome nature. They accommodated nature.
Right.
You know?
That's cool.
You know,
Natural state.
If they needed a place where they had to grow crops, okay, they looked for an empty field. They didn't chop down a forest to make the fields. They looked for an empty one, you know, and then used that field to grow their crops. What little crops they did. They were great hunter-gatherers, and they walked everywhere. So since they walked everywhere, they knew where everything was. You know?
Yeah.
If you fly over, you don't know there's berries in that forest. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. When I'm in the woods, I feel like it's like a city of its own, but it's, you know what I mean? When you're really in the woods somewhere.
It's the natural city.
Yeah,
of course.
the natural city.
Have you ever been to California? Have you ever been to the Redwoods?
No, but I nah.
Oh, man. That's like a fucking cathedral.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing to see a tree that's the size of that house.
I seen some pictures.
As big and around as that house.
Yeah.
You know, and then 300 feet tall. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Everybody up in Humboldt County that I went to, every house we went to, pretty much, it's like if they had a piece of land, like a couple of acres or whatever. So you'd drive in, and somewhere on their property would be a huge stump. Okay? You know, a stump like 20 feet across and like 18 feet off the ground, you know,
yeah.
giant stump. And a lot of people, what they did, that became their deck. They would go to the top of it and build a little deck around there. A couple of guys had stages up on there with an easy up over, and the band was up there. Yeah. And then I got taken to the party of people that were listening to the computer. That was music to them. I wrote a fresh algorithm. Oh yeah, put it in the computer. Let's hear it. And put a fucking algorithm in there.
Perry, I'm gonna sit here.
Yeah, that plays random notes, random sound. You know, and that guy who wrote the algorithm is considered to be like, you know, he's a Beethoven because he wrote the algorithm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. The whole different digital mind out there. You know.
What did you think about guys like, this is like totally jumping subject, but like guys like superstar Billy Graham and Jesse Ventura, and
those guys. Well,
and how they came into wrestling, but also what they've done since?
Well,
they were kind of hippies, right?
Billy Graham, that was the Graham brothers. They used to come out as a tag team. they went to Japan. I think we talked about this before, but we didn't talk about it with the camera on.
Yeah.
They back in the 50s going into the 60s, the old school wrestlers realized that Japan loved wrestling. So I don't know if Ed McMahon was the guy who did it, but somebody went out there with a bunch of wrestlers and did a tour of Japan, and the Graham brothers went with them. So the Graham brothers were conventional wrestlers. They used holds and the ropes and threw people around and whatever. And,
Yeah.
but when the Graham brothers came back, it was all judo. Okay, completely different kind of wrestling from the conventional American wrestling. Okay, which is more show than go. Okay, so it was like mixing traditional Greco-Roman wrestling with wrestling. Southpaw has that guy who's the phys ed teacher who's always saying it ain't gay, Greco-Roman wrestling. And then in one of their episodes, they're reading through a history book, and they see a picture of an urn, and there's two naked guys on the urn wrestling, right? So it's like, oh my God, their pee-pees are out. It's like, that's what people used to do back in the day, completely naked. Boxing, wrestling, all the Olympics, everything was naked, unencumbered. Unencumbered. That was the idea, was to unencumber the human. Clothing only encumbered the human form. That's why all of the ancient sculpture and stuff is all naked people or half-dressed people. It's interesting that.
Yeah, we were talking about all that. What was it? The Roman stuff.
Roman and Greek.
Yeah, Greek.
Etruscan, not so much Egyptian. Egyptian, everybody is clothed. A lot of people are clothed.
Yeah, they got like robes and shit like that.
Well, yeah, everybody had robes. I mean, that was what it was back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, like older people are completely clothed. But like Diana, the goddess Diana. Well, yeah, she's clothed, but her tit is out. A lot of them are completely nude. Michelangelo's David, and which is like an Apollo figure, is completely nude. He's done in a Greek style. And sculptures of Apollo from Greece are, they're usually naked. They're naked. Not so much the guys with the beards, but.
What did you think about like the hip hop movement and stuff like that?
No, I mean,
I know the '80s
what am I
was something
do?
else.
I'm going to be like all the other white guys and say, "Well, I have fucking hip hop and nigger music." No, it's a form of music, like reggae is not my music, but I can listen to a little bit of reggae. I can listen to a little bit of rap. Isn't it nice that there's all the different forms? I have in my record collection, I have a whole one of those. I can put everything in those little booklets. That you can put CDs into. I mean, I have a whole one of those with like 35 different CDs in it that are strictly classical.
Yeah.
Some of them are like little samplers, but some of them are full symphonies. The BSO and all that. I listen to that shit on the radio sometimes. It's nice to get away from the floor on the floor idea.
Yeah.
The disco feel, grooves that. There are grooves in some of that, in some of the classical stuff. It's just a slower groove,
Yeah, I mean, I love all music. It's funny though, because.
Well, my dad, when he, like I said, my dad was an opera guy. So opera is more or less a story, And one of the operas was he liked to play was Peter and the Wolf, which is a story of the kid woodsman and the wolf, and there's Hansel and Gretel is done as a symphony, I mean, it's amazing what some of those guys do with just a piano.